almost to an hour here. I like to always kind of end with if you kind of had two or three pieces of writing advice for either people that are new trying to break in, or they're deciding to go on the self-published journey. How would you guide them? What would you tell them?
Oh, great question. Well, one is a little bit self-serving. I teach classes through writingworkshops.com, and I teach a class on Shakespeare, and it's kind of the thing that, at least with teaching, I'm known for. I think that it's a great idea to have a few literary heroes and study them, like with a notepad and a pencil. And I don't think you need to have that many heroes. Like, I don't think you need 100 authors. Like, pick 2 or 3 that you're like, these are the ones that I'm going to just dig into them at the most basic level. So in my class, I teach how to study Shakespeare so that you can pull that from your work and put it into your work. Like, you can literally steal from him and use it in ways that feels true to yourself. So let's say you really like Ursula K. Le Guin. Like, what is it that she does that makes her work so good? Like, go on YouTube, listen to her interviews, buy her book on writing, and just really dig deep. So I think whether it's Stephen King or whoever it is, find an author and just hold on to them and see what you can learn from them. I think that's advice one, is just have an author that you really want to pull from. And learn by studying the greats, because there's a lot that they can teach. I think another bit of advice, and this is one that I'm having to take right now, is particularly with a long book, you can never spend too long on the outline. I know sometimes we're anxious to really just hop into the book and start writing, but my next book is going to be probably about 600, 700 pages. And the outline is 30 pages right now. And I'm going to go through it. I'm almost done with it. And I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to read through it again. I'm going to mark it up. I'm going to change things. I'm sending it off to my editor to say, hey, look, here's the outline. What are you thinking? What needs to change? What's going to work and not work? And I want to get that outline so tight that when it comes time to write, it's just about craft. Now it's just about delivering.
So that outline's kind of like the first draft, basically. Yeah.
And I know people talk about plotting and pantsing and all this stuff, but I think if you're just starting off, it's safer to be a plotter. Maybe you will find in the process that as you're outlining, you actually just wrote chapter 1. But I think that if you're just starting off, don't feel embarrassed if you spend too long on the outline. I think you can, because you can only release your first book once. So you might as well make sure you get it just right. So I think, having good role models for your writing, I think also outlining really hard, I think works well. And then, I think that the other thing you have to remind yourself is it's not a race. There are people who are releasing several books a year. I'm looking at you, Andy Peliquin. I'm looking at some other people who are just cranking out those books. And that's great for them. But you've got to work at your own pace. I think that there's a lot of indie authors who are burning out because they're trying to keep a pace that is not natural to their life circumstances. They have a job, they have other things that keep them busy, and they can't produce 2,000 words a day. So I think you have to forgive yourself.
Yeah, one of the things I like to tell people, and what I've said before, is like, so you have someone like Tolkien who basically spent his entire life to turn out 4 novels. Now, obviously, we have Christopher Tolkien collected things and all that later, but essentially he spent his whole life to do 4 novels. And then you have, he had, I think, some other fiction things, but then you have like a Brandon Sanderson who's like just writing huge, so many works. Both of them are changing the publishing world and the book world. So both are valid, essentially.
And the interesting thing is we know pretty well that in 50, 100 years from now, people are still going to be reading The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I think that that's pretty obvious. I have no doubt that people will be reading Brandon Sanderson's work far in the future, but I don't know which books are going to be the ones that are going to be the ones that people really remember. Will it be the Stormlight Archive? Will it be Mistborn? Will it be Tress of the Emerald Sea? Will it be something like, we don't know which one's going to have that staying power that everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, this is the book. And so, he could write 50, 100 books, but maybe in 100 years, people are only going to hold on to the first 5 books of the Stormlight Archive, and that's it.
Yeah, that's a great thing. I never really thought about that. That makes a lot of sense of like what of his is. I mean, he could accomplish that. Like the whole Cosmere is remembered.
Yeah,
but I think I do agree with you. I think it maybe is a little more likely that people are like, nope, Mistborn is the seminal work.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is Stormlight, who knows?
Or even some of those books that nowadays we don't hold in very high esteem, like a Warbringer or a Elantris or whatever. Maybe those are the books that like 100 years from now, they're like, I don't know what people were thinking. This book is awesome.
That's true.
And so I think it's interesting, but at the same time, when I'm writing, I do the math. I'm like, okay, I am this old right now. The average lifespan of a male living in this century is about here. So I go, okay, I've got this many years left of me.
Yeah.
How many books can I reasonably write in that time if my mental faculties stay with me? And then I'm like, okay, I've got about this many books in me. And then you realize that's your legacy. That's what you're hoping to create. But at the same time, I would rather write one amazing book than just produce 10 pieces of trash.